Hey everyone, so the purpose of this channel and specifically this video is to hopefully help relieve some of the anxiety that's involved in trading highly volatile assets like cryptocurrencies and other assets. And if you find value in the strategies that I'm sharing, which you can go and verify, backtest, validate the authenticity of for yourself, then please consider hitting the subscribe button, notification bell, and liking the video so it boosts it in the algorithm. That way I can help more people. I feel like a lot of people getting involved in cryptocurrency today have really no idea what they're doing, and I don't want to see you guys blowing your accounts. Please watch some of my content before you're all in your account and going full kamikaze mode in these huge market crashes that we've been seeing lately. So without further ado, um, if you're new here, this indicator that you see on your screen here is Wolfpack Pro. I designed this indicator by myself, and I have a website, so you can check it out. The link's in the description, and I have a reseller program. You can get paid for helping market this indicator. It's very fresh on the market, so you can be one of the very first resellers. And if you have any questions, leave your comments down below. I'll be happy to help any one of you guys out. And yeah, so let's just get right into this. So I want to help just give a quick update on some of the proven, tried and true strategies that no one's really talking about when it comes to trading Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin loves, loves, loves trend lines. So I'm going to show you some of my secrets here. So let's just start by drawing our trend lines on the chart. We can also draw them on Wolfpack. So we're going to start with this major critical downslope here. And we also have this channel here that was forming, which actually lines up pretty nicely over here. So we have kind of what I like to call here, this is the bearish area, and you're going to see the patterns that are involved in that area. And we have the bullish area. This is where you're putting in your longs. When we're in this quadrant, we're bullish. When we're in this quadrant, I mean, you could try to catch the bottom of some of these dumps, but what's the probability that you're going to get it right? I mean, half the people that are buying here might get it right, half the people might get it wrong. If you feel like gambling, then feel free. If you want to try some more credible methods, so feel free to try out some of the strategies that I'm using. So this area we're just going to call the gray area. If we break into this area, this is a good sign, but we've still got to deal with this big daddy over here, this really tall line. And at some point we know we're going to have to intersect. So you can also see here, I'll just draw some more trend lines. You can see some of the intersections that we have going on. And there's going to be horizontal supports. There's also going to be trend lines. So we know that it's either going to pivot on a trend line or a horizontal line. And we have intersections of horizontal lines and this diagonal trend lines. Then we know that those are going to be critical focal points. So we've got to pay attention specifically to those. If you're drawing your trend lines, support and resistance correctly, you're going to be able to identify them. And we can understand a lot more why Bitcoin is bouncing off specific points just by doing this correctly. We're going to do a couple more here before showing you the example. Okay, got that one in. Come back here and just put in the horizontal ones, and this is what you want to have on pretty much. If you're trading a coin and you're not doing this, what are you doing trading that coin? Just don't just hop into a coin on the day because you see it's trending on coin market cap. You really have to understand what is going on with the various supports and resistance. You have to become familiar with some of the very critical price points. Here we see a lot of resistance there becomes support. We had a critical bounce here. We just fell through it here. So we're expecting this potentially upcoming right at a point where it looks like it could potentially see a reversal there. But you can already see at some of these points, this was a resistance back here, we had support here, and then we had an intersection between this upward sloping blue line and this yellow support. We had this intersection. We tried to bounce off of it and we failed. So when we failed that, we saw just a massive dump, right? So the biggest moves are going to be made at these areas, and you can identify them just by understanding which side of the cone that we're on. If we're on, we have these just disgusting downwards cones that you see often printing, and they just cover this entire area. And then after we break out, we often retest and then continue upwards. So that's where you're placing your longs. But what are you doing just gambling, randomly placing an order here or here, somewhere in this jumbled mess? Look, I mean, we'll go through, I'll verify some of this stuff that I'm saying, just with some other examples to show you why this stuff really works. Okay, so we've got a couple trend lines, and of course we could draw a little bit more. We could go up to just the 3-day, and there's some of these trend lines that we're going to be able to draw in. So we have support there in that area. We have some support here, just in this area. And we're going to draw our lines real quick. And I'll get right into the action of this video very quickly. Okay. So we had this trend line here. We'll come back down to the 3-hour, and this was a critical intersection right there. We had the yellow line. We also had the upwards sloping line there. We have a perfect bounce off of it here. Again, this candle came down and touched it perfectly. And when we drop below that, there wasn't much keeping us from dropping down further. Okay, so now we have these important lines drawn in. I'm going to go through some other examples. We're going to revisit this. So we had a dump here. Let's just go check this out. Let's drop down to the 2-hour, and we have one of these cones. If we come up to the wick on this one, we can perfectly see the cone. Okay, so every time we touched here, you wouldn't necessarily know to place a short here, but as soon as we came up again to touch it and we rejected, on this red candle, when we rejected, should be placing a short. And of course, in hindsight, it's 20/20 vision. Of course, the more practice you do, the quicker you'll be able to act to catch the top, set your stop loss. Just one ATR above the last swing high at this point above the cone. So as you see here, we haven't been able to cross above the cone. We rejected off it one more time there, but we were able to cross above. We came down to try to test this area, and this is where you should be considering longing. We're on top of the cone, we've crossed above, and in this area, this is just, in my opinion, gambling. You don't know whether to place a long, you don't know where to place it, it's unclear, you're trying to guess which support it's going to bounce off. Down here, for example, you may have wanted to place a long, you would have gotten, well, if you're using wolfpack, you wouldn't have placed it because you would have seen this wave coming down. Here, maybe you got the big green circle, so you might place the long down here. We've also got, this was an area of support back here, so that might have been safer. But what's really important is to just identify really where we are in the cycle. Are we in these disgusting downwards cones, or are we in the bullish area? Okay, let's go down. Let's go back and do another one, because these are really easy to get once you can figure it out, right? So we've got here. It looks like we have two cones. You can see that one. So we've got all of our horizontal lines already drawn in. We're drawing in our cone. And on this first one, we crossed above, and it's not. Let's drop up to the 3 hour just for this. So on this first one, we touch here, so we're on these 2 points. We're able to draw the line here, and we tried to retest it. We were sloping down a little bit. We came up and we rejected here at this resistance. Now here we retested it once more, and now we're on the top side of the cone. So we actually have a second cone form. Here on Wolfpack, we're seeing the golden crosses form. We have a golden cross right here at the very bottom, and this is really easy to do. It's really easy to do. So we can either draw it from the top of the wick right there. It depends on which time frame, right? Because this isn't going to look like a wick on the 1 hour, right? This is the 3 hours. So it really depends on which time frame that you're on. But you can see what happened here on the second cone, and we see something similar. Just to bring this back to the current place where we're at, we have this gray area right in the middle. We have this downwards channel. This is all going to be gray area. What we have over here, we have just below. This is where we're bearish. You might have gotten lucky and placed a long on this candle here, on the support bounce. But other than that, we're dealing with this bearish momentum. And in the middle here, we're in this gray area. But as soon as we cross up out of it, we have the retest right there. We have one downwards candle. This wick comes down and touches. It's also touching not just the bottom of this cone, it's also touching the support. So this is perfect. This is a beautiful long. And those are the longs that generally you want to size into and increase your order size gradually. So you could place your long there, have your stop loss just below the support or just around the cone. So you're going to do maybe 1 ATR below there. You're not going to lose much if you get stopped out. You know that this is generally a very safe trading setup. Okay, on the macro. So we're holding this. This trade would have been, you started it at 1 a.m. on March 1st and could have closed it out once we fell through this support here on March 3rd. So that was a 2-day trade, almost a 2.5 day trade. Okay, so what we see often too is we came down and retested here. We didn't even touch the support this time. Instead, we just saw golden crosses. These golden crosses line up perfectly with these. So we could start to draw trend lines, right? Start drawing your trend lines on Wolfpack. You can start projecting how strong the momentum is going to be, right? We can keep drawing this up. We're just going to touch. I'm going to try to get this line accurate as possible. So once we really start seeing the momentum fall below this upward sloping line, then we know that momentum is starting to slow down, and it's time to get out here. Okay, so here, this is interesting. We had one more little FOMO peak. This was probably all of the late buyers. Oftentimes, if you see a peak like that, it's time to get out, because the buyers who come in at the very end, this is these are the people who are buying your large orders. These are the people who are, someone has to buy the top, right? These are the people buying the top. We already know that the momentum is slowing down over here, and of course in this area, once we fall below this yellow line, we know that it's time to get out. All right, now let's go back to some other examples here. This is very, very, very simple. Okay, back to January. Bitcoin had an absolutely just disgusting January. We could draw our trend lines still. All right, so here we're going to draw our horizontal lines. We dip down here. Way back here we had this wick. So we know that there is some support here during this crash. We didn't even touch it. We didn't even need that support, but we knew it would have been there for us. We also have this one here. Okay. Start drawing simple trend lines. This is a really, really good example. So okay. Right. Right. So you see, as long as we on the lower time frames on Wolfpack here, you see the waves really, really coming down. Maybe we could see it on the, let's check the 2 hour. Back to January. Okay, so on the 2 hour we see this divergence. We also see this lower high on Wolfpack. We know that price hasn't plummeted yet, but we know momentum is really slowing down. So hopefully in the future, if there's a situation like this, you'll know that it's time to take profit. Okay, now on the higher time frame, 3 hour, as long as we're below the cone, this is the strategy, right? If we're below the cone, we're just looking for these rejections. There's a rejection here. You may not have known to short here. You may not have had the information, but after we did, you can draw this trend line in and just keep extending it outwards. We touched here and we rejected. Place a short. Touched again, place another short. Here we crossed above. This was when Elon Musk put, I think, BTC in his Twitter username. So we really, really shot up, but we came down and we retested the cone twice. And we got a golden cross on the second one. That right there is the perfect long entry, right? So look what happened as soon as we broke out of the cone. We just went to the moon. Okay. So you can see them too on the smaller time frames, but again, the probability that traders who are using these really high probability trading setups, these are going to be institutional investors mainly, so you're going to see them work out with a higher probability the larger time frame you're on. If you're on the 1 minute, you're not going to see often these work out 100% of the time, so the probability is significantly increased the higher time frame that you're on. Okay, let's just check out the 2 hour here. There's a small one, right? There's a small example here, but as you can see, we had this downward sloping line. We drew it in. We tried to cross above it. We rejected, right? That's why you wait for the retest. And if you shorted, you would have been fine. That would have been a pretty significant short at the time when Bitcoin was only 30,000. Once we cross up, you can place your long with your stop loss just below the cone. Does that make sense? All right. You can even see it here. Well, let's go to the 12-hour. This is the super macro time frame. All right, you can really see these cones on the 12-hour. Okay. Back. You can see a cone here, right? So we can just draw from the peak here. If we draw it from the top of the wick, then we perfectly have wick to wick on the 12-hour, and it's catching itself here. This is the accumulation phase. So when investors are sizing up and your stop loss, you can put in a horizontal support if you like, right in this area at the bottom of the wicks, and then just place your stop loss just right below the cone, right below. See how there's an intersection there between the cone and the support. So just place your stop loss right below there. It's that simple. Right after we had that, what happens? All right, we went to the moon. So keep an eye out, right? Are we below the cone? This is bearish. This is where you're trying to guess the bottoms. Maybe you can take a gamble on this upwards sloping cone, right? But we know what could happen is we could just fall below the cone. This one worked out, right? But if we're looking for confirmation, see what happens. We came up. If you have Wolfpack Pro, then you got a notification for a golden cross. On the 3-hour, we can look. We're retesting. We have our golden cross, and everything worked out. Okay. There's another one. Just going back, and you can see this on any chart every chart that I've seen. Ethereum works really well for this. Just like that, right? Okay, so this was last February, March. This was the COVID crash. So we have this downward sloping line. Here you have the information on the 12-hour. We came up, we tried to break through it, we rejected. So here we touched it. You could place a short. This would have been a great short. Came up, we touched it again, and we rejected again. So we placed another short. Came so far down, right? So far down. And I mean, you can kind of see the trend line here. Like it's going, this one's more of a broad, sometimes it comes above, but really, ultimately, it ended up being a really strong resistance point here. Just for momentum. But it also works out here too, right? So we have our price resistance, we also have our momentum resistance, and we understand how it's going to play out. If we're in the bottom side here, maybe you could catch the bottom, right? You could gamble that. If you're feeling like you want to play it safe though, don't all in your account here, right? Place your orders at this retest. Retest, going to the moon, right? That's how it works. So if we're on this side, you're bullish. Right. So you can come up here on Wolfpack, you can see there's a huge jump here. Perhaps there's all this divergence coming. You could take your profit somewhere near the top there, and then watch, right? We have another cone just at the top of the wicks. This is where you're bearish. This is where you're bullish, right? Came up, and it looks like that wick wanted to come down and test it, and it just kept going. So try to size in your order after you cross above it. place your stop loss just below the support. Hopefully you can get this support line or just below where the cone is. Okay? And this really works. I can keep going back. I can show you more. Let's do one more. Okay, so here we go. 2019 on the 12-hour for Bitcoin, right? So we have this huge downwards cone. It's like that. You can also draw another one on around here. Okay. So if you're part of the 2019 bull run, then congratulations. If you weren't, you were buying the tops, then here's how you'll never do it again. So we have these two data points. We know that if we come up and touch it again, it's time to short. If we reject off of it. We came up here, we touched it, we rejected, time to short. And here, an interesting thing happened. We came up when we touched it, and then we broke up. And we really broke up super hard. We came back down and really wanted to retest it right there. But we're bullish here, so zoom in a bit to really see what was going on here on the 12-hour. Okay. So we could draw in our horizontal supports. So this was a resistance here, so that could be a support. We have several bounce points here, 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 and here. Okay. And there's probably some that go further back. Yeah, right there. All right. So as long as we are above the cone, then we're bullish, right? So that's how it works. Let's go back to present time. Here, let's just reset the chart. Okay, so where are we, right? Just using the exact same techniques that I just showed you, you can really preserve your account balance and grow it. Isn't that amazing? You don't have to have any anxiety, any fear. You don't have to be worrying about the price of Bitcoin. You know where you're at. You know if you have your short bias. We know we got this downwards channel, this trend line. This is where you short. This is where you short. I think that's pretty clear. If you have questions about that, come to my Discord, and hopefully I can try to get some more advanced tips on these strategies. And while we're at it, just one last thing. So if you watched the end of the video, thank you so much for checking out my channel. I hope you guys subscribe. So we have our first momentum resistance here, right? We have a second one that's a little bit more long term here. Let's try to draw that in just like that. You can see it really was trying to become support here, but this was the critical point. We had this downwards intersection, and we had this point here, which could have potentially turned to support since we crossed above it here. So the logic is that once we've crossed above it, this should actually serve us as hopefully a support. We tried to get a bounce here, but we rejected on the resistance line. So as soon as we had that red dot to confirm, if you hadn't already sized in, that was your chance to do so using wolfpack strategies that I share. Now here we also have more rejections at that same line. And it's not a coincidence. You'll see this all across any asset that you go and find. You'll see these strange, they're not so much coincidences, what they are is momentum resistance. So you can trade with confirmation, you can trade safely, and hopefully you don't blow your account. All right, I hope that summarizes all of the key information that you need to start trading more successfully. There's one last piece of key information, though, that I should include is that if you're on the 3-hour and you see one of these cones, you can often drop down to the 30-minute time frame. And you'll also see cones forming within the cones. So you can also draw in your lower time frames, support and resistance lines, the trend lines. They'll often line up very similarly, and you can start using this on multiple time frames. However, just a caveat to that, if you drop down to the 1-minute time frame, you're not always going to see it play out as successfully, as there's not as many institutional buyers just scalping. So with scalping, this strategy might not be as reliable. Let me know if you feel like, if you back tested it, if you find like it's more reliable, then you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that this is very successful more on the medium to large time frames, so keep that in mind. I just want to add that I've added to my Patreon, I now have my own signals generated from Wolfpack on the best time frames if you want to check them out. I believe using these signals that you can pay them off within one successful trade, and I'll just give a quick demo of how they look. Okay, so here in my Discord, the links in the description. I have they're not intended to trade off every single signal, but they're intended to draw your eyes to the chart to start making strategies like the ones that I've been sharing with you. They're going to get you to the charts at that critical moment, so you don't have to be sitting at the chart all day, and it's one click. You can just react, and you can see my rolls here. I've got all 4 of these, and if I want to take them off, I can just click nope, I don't want any notifications today. Where's Dogecoin? There's the top 14 coins here, and you can see it's taken off all of the coin rolls on, and if I want to put them back on, I can just react to whatever time frame I want, and there they are. All right, so often the way I use this is I will always have Bitcoin on. That's the big daddy. But if there's a breakout on maybe XRP, then I'll add these signals on for the day or for the week just to capitalize on those big swings. And I'm also adding to this list, I have the signals here. This is how they appear. I'm probably going to add, this is the green triangle, golden cross, etc., but I'm probably going to add like a green triangle emoji. I'm going to add some custom emojis just to add some flavor to this. And on the smaller time frames, there's scalp signals, so it's for really any kind of trader. And then I have critical alerts here. These are one-time signals that I'm sending based off huge time frame crossovers for very pivotal moments in Bitcoin and other coins. So if you feel like checking that out, then my Patreon is linked down below. And come through the Discord, ask any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.